A single dad named Mark and his daughter Emily stop at a roadside cafe. Copyright. There, they notice a wary soldier, Sarah, with 6 young children, looking lost and hungry. Mark's heart is stirred by their situation. Sarah opens up about her struggle as a recently discharged, struggling with PTSD, no family to turn to, and fleeing a toxic relationship. Mark listens and offers support. Mark offers them a temporary stay in his guest house. What begins as a temporary shelter becomes a new rhythm of shared meals, bedtime stories, and healing moments. ChatGPT said, "The morning sun barely broke through the thick, overcast clouds hanging low over the highway when Mark Daniels pulled off at exit 42. His 10-year-old daughter, Emily, sat beside him humming along to the soft country tune playing on the radio." Their annual road trip to see Grandpa had always been something of a sacred ritual for the two of them. Since his wife passed away 5 years ago, these trips had become their way of remembering family, slowing down from life's chaos, and making space to just be together. They rolled into the gravel parking lot of an old roadside cafe. Copyright with a sign that leaned slightly to the left, its paint chipped by time and wind. The place didn't look like much, but Mark knew from experience that its pancakes were legendary. Emily perked up when she recognized the faded Mary's Cafe Copyright sign. "Is this the place with the whipped cream mountains?" she asked, eyes lighting up. Mark chuckled. "And the chocolate chip rivers." "Yep." As he parked the car, he noticed something unusual. Off to the side of the building, tucked under the shade of a rusting awning, sat a woman in military fatigues surrounded by children, 6 of them, all under 12 if he had to guess. They looked tired. The woman was bottle-feeding a baby while 2 older kids tried to keep the younger ones calm. The oldest boy was holding a baby backpack like it weighed more than him. A little girl stared at the cafe Copyright longingly, one hand on her stomach. Mark's instincts kicked in. Something about the scene didn't sit right. He wasn't one to jump to conclusions, but there was a gravity to the way the woman sat, shoulders stiff, jaw clenched, eyes scanning the parking lot like she was still on patrol. It wasn't just exhaustion, it was survival. Emily followed his gaze and whispered, "Daddy, a broken bar. Do you think they're hungry?" Mark nodded slowly. "Looks like it." Without a word, he walked toward the woman, his hands open and his voice gentle. "Good morning. Everything all right here?" The woman looked up sharply. Her body tensed, a flicker of caution flashing in her eyes. She shifted subtly in front of the children, protective and poised. "We're okay," she said, "just resting for a bit." Mark offered a warm, non-threatening smile. "Name's Mark. This is my daughter Emily. We're just stopping for breakfast. Looks like your crew's been through a long haul. Would you like to join us?" "My treat. No strings, I promise." The woman hesitated. She looked down at her kids, who were trying hard to stay quiet despite their hunger. One of the younger boys had a smudge of dirt on his cheek and was chewing on his sleeve. She sighed. "I'm Sarah," she said quietly. "And a broken bar, thank you." "That would be really kind." Inside, the waitress raised an eyebrow at the large group entering but quickly softened when she saw the children's tired faces and Sarah's uniform. They were seated at 2 booths pushed together, and Emily immediately began chatting with the girl closest to her age, sharing stories about her school and their road trip. Mark didn't pry. He just watched with quiet admiration as Sarah got the kids settled, wiped mouths with napkins, and divided food fairly among them. She was efficient and calm, even when the baby began to fuss. There was a steadiness to her that hinted at years of training, yet the way her eyes kept darting to the door betrayed how much she was still on alert. Their food came, and the children ate like they hadn't had a real meal in days. Sarah didn't touch her plate right away. She watched them eat first, making sure everyone had enough before she allowed herself a bite. "You served?" Mark asked gently, breaking the silence between them. Sarah nodded. "Army, 11 years. Got out 6 months ago." "Thank you," he said sincerely. "That couldn't have been easy, coming home with so many little ones." She exhaled, her hands wrapped tightly around her coffee mug. "It's been a broken bar rough. My ex-husband, he wasn't safe to be around. I left with the kids before it got worse. Been bouncing around since. I thought I'd be able to land on my feet. Boot a broken bar." Her voice trailed off. She didn't need to finish the sentence. "I can't imagine how hard that must be," Mark said, "But I'm glad you got out." "That takes courage." She looked at him, startled by the gentleness in his voice. "Most people just judge me. 6 kids and no home? They think I made bad choices. I see a mom doing everything she can to protect her children. That's not a bad choice. That's the bravest kind." Something in her cracked slightly, not enough to fall apart, but just enough to let a bit of air into the room. She gave him a tired smile and nodded. As the meal came to a close, Mark walked up to the counter to pay. The waitress leaned in and said, "That woman a broken bar. She looks like she's holding the world together with duct tape." Mark nodded. "She is, but she's still standing." He walked back to the table and noticed Sarah wrapping leftovers carefully into napkins, probably to make them last for the road. "You have somewhere to go tonight?" he asked. She hesitated, then nodded vaguely. "We'll figure something out." He didn't press, but something inside him wouldn't let go of the image of those kids sleeping in a van again. "I've got a small guest house out back of our place," he said. "Just 1 bedroom and a sofa, but it's clean. It's not much, but it's yours if you want idle for a couple nights. No pressure, just until you get your bearings." She looked stunned. "You don't even know me." "I know enough," Mark replied. "I know you're doing everything you can for your family, and I know you need a safe place." Sarah swallowed hard. "What if we're too much?" "You're not," he said firmly. "There's no such thing." There was a long pause. Then Sarah said the words so quietly, they nearly disappeared into the hum of the cafe. Copyright. "Okay, we'll come." Back at Mark's house, Emily showed the kids the backyard while Mark gave Sarah a quick tour of the guest house. It was modest, just a kitchenette, a small bathroom, and enough space for a bed and couch. But it was warm, safe, and private. As Sarah stood in the doorway holding the baby, tears welled up in her eyes for the first time. "I haven't had a door to close in weeks," she whispered. "You do now," Mark said. That night, the kids fell asleep quickly, snuggled under fresh blankets and full bellies. Mark stood outside the guest house, looking at the stars. Sarah stepped out beside him. "I don't know how to thank you," she said. "No need," he replied. "Just focus on healing, that's all." Over the next few days, something unspoken began to bloom between their two families. Emily adored Sarah's daughter, Grace, and the younger boys loved playing tag in the backyard. Mark installed a safety gate on the guest house steps, fixed the leaky faucet, and set up extra nightlights. He even drove Sarah to a nearby Veterans Resource Center that helped with job placement and temporary assistance. Sarah began to breathe again. Every night, Mark would find her sitting outside with a cup of tea, watching the kids through the window. She didn't talk much, but there was a softness returning to her eyes. One evening, after the kids had gone to bed and the summer air was warm and still, Sarah said quietly, "You didn't just give us a place to stay. You gave us hope." Mark looked at her and said, "You gave me purpose again." Neither of them said anything more that night. They didn't need to. Sometimes the most profound feelings come wrapped in silence. Weeks turned into a month. Sarah found part-time work with a non-profit helping fellow veterans. The kids enrolled in school, with Emily proudly walking them to class. Mark's once quiet home was now full of laughter, spilled juice, and the occasional chaos of 6 energetic children. But it never felt overwhelming. It felt alive. One Saturday afternoon, while everyone was gathered in the backyard for a cookout, Grace tugged at Mark's sleeve and asked, "Are you our uncle now?" Mark laughed, but before he could answer, Sarah spoke up from behind him. "No, sweetie," she said. "He's something even better." And in that moment, surrounded by hot dogs, chalk drawings, and the music of children playing, something shifted. Mark looked at Sarah, and she looked back. The way they'd both carried his grief, her fear felt a little lighter. Later that night, as they cleaned up together in the kitchen, Sarah said, "I think the kids are starting to feel at home." "They are," Mark replied. "So am I." The months that followed were filled with new traditions. Sunday pancakes became a ritual for all of them. Sarah started a small vegetable garden in the backyard. Mark built bunk beds for the boys and a bookshelf for Grace. They celebrated holidays together, made scrapbooks of their new life, and filled every inch of their home with love. What began with a moment of compassion outside a roadside cafe / copyrights turned into a story of healing, family, and the kind of quiet heroism that rarely makes the news but changes lives just the same. Mark never expected that stopping for pancakes would lead to finding a family. Sarah never expected a stranger would open his door and, eventually, his heart. But life has a way of leading us to the people we're meant to find, especially when we lead with kindness. And in the end, it wasn't just Sarah and her 6 children who were saved. Mark was too.